Hello, welcome. Hi, Saria. Hi, Darth Magog. Hope you guys are doing well tonight. Thank you so much for checking out the stream. I do apologize for the last minute lack of thumbnail and all that last minute upload. As you can tell from my voice, still not feeling great. I was feeling pretty awesome, and then the past couple nights have been pretty busy. Went to a protest out in the cold a couple of days ago, and then also had a went to a hockey game, which was nice, but also cold. And then I was like, "Oh yay! I'm finally out in the world doing things. This is exciting. Let's get some more energy out." So I tried to do some like punk vocals and stuff, like I used to do metal vocals and all that back in the day. And so I did like a music session, and would you know it? Surprise, surprise! Spending a lot of time outside in the cold, then overexerting your voice when you're already sick. Not the not the most brilliant idea I've ever had, not super tactically wise, so it's fitting that tonight we're going to be talking about Naruto's intelligence. So, again, this is going to be kind of a low key stream. This is actually the 100th video on my channel. When this actually goes up and gets uploaded, it'll be video 100. If you count if you don't count the first two like uploads, this will be the 98th stream, so two more to get to 100. Not that the arbitrary numbers are like super important. It's all just for fun. It's all we not to get philosophical already, but like we assign arbitrary value to numbers. It's not like that big of a deal, but it does feel cool. It feels cool to look at this and be like, yeah, I've stuck with a thing for multiple years. The numbers kept climbing. There are 3 digits now where there were previously two. That feels kind of nice. So yeah, one of the things that came up in the debate between Noodles and Swaikage, one of the things that comes up that I think is honestly better understood these days, but I think folks still have some, um, you know, minor confusion around, is the idea of Naruto's intelligence. He's introduced as a bit of a punk, as a bit of a class clown, and he's explicitly called a dunce, a moron, an idiot, and all of these things over the course of the series. And so when he pulls off things that are tactically smart, sometimes in debates I hear people downplaying that by saying, well, he's also referred to as the most unpredictable ninja. So, for example, if Naruto does something smart, they'll be like, well, that's not actually smart. Like, if he had thought it out beforehand, if he had actually mapped out and planned out those tactics, then it would be smart. But, Naruto's just unpredictable. And they describe him as essentially flailing around randomly and crazily, and almost achieving his victory through luck. Now, I think that this is a pretty gross mischaracterization, and thankfully, I haven't heard too many people make this mistake. But it does kind of bear the question or open up the question as to, Naruto is explicitly portrayed and described by the author as being an idiot by a variety of different characters diegetically, and he's described that way in some of the peripheral material, like data books and stuff, if I remember correctly. So, what gives? Why is he described as being stupid, but also maintaining the position that he's actually kind of a genius in certain regards? Well, without getting into the whole psychology, neurology of it, there are, I will mention very briefly, multiple intelligences. I think generally when we think of people as being intelligent, the first thing we think of is their ability to do complex problem solving and to store and recall information quickly, which is a fine definition of intelligence. But, you know, um, the way that I was taught anyway growing up is that the sort of intelligence that is involved in like spatial reasoning and like imagining transforming three-dimensional objects in your head is different from the sort of intelligence that is involved in solving math equations, is different from the intelligence involved in recalling a whole bunch of historical facts and figures and storing a lot of information. Knowledge, memory, intelligence, and problem solving, like musical intelligence is another thing, right? Like when you think about what is actually involved in what your brain does, it's quite a complex cerebral operation to be able to perform any music at all, let alone some of the complex like multi um, polyrhythms and stuff that drummers do. Drummers get this reputation as being stupid because they're just like unga bunga hitting things with sticks. But if you think about what their brain is actually doing, even if they like can't solve a simple math equation, which obviously is a gross caricature anyway, but like even if they were quote unquote stupid in other ways, that is a form of intelligence. So my perspective is basically that Naruto has a personality that masks his intelligence. He struggles with book learning. He struggles with processing a certain kind of information within a certain context, but he is actually extremely fucking smart. And he just needs to be given the right context in order to have that intelligence manifest. Honestly, I think it would be, Sarah and I have talked about this before, but like, I think it could be fun to do a stream where we specifically talk about like neurodivergent representation in Naruto, because this is probably not the right term. I should check with my partner; she would know better. But like, you could potentially make the argument that Naruto has a quote unquote learning disability. That again, that's probably that doesn't feel like the right term actually. Now that I say it out loud, but like when it comes to paperwork, when it comes to actual like solving equations and problems, Sasuke and Sakura obviously have a much stronger advantage. But when it comes to actual tactical brilliance, which involves like high order problem solving in highly stressful situations, the sort of intelligence that requires innovation and quick iteration, um, and yeah, innovation being a very particular component of his intelligence. Like he is really smart, like demonstrably. Um, but I think so. I think personally, some folks who maybe struggle with certain kinds of learning might still relate to Naruto for his ability to find areas in which he excels despite setbacks in other areas. There's also the concept of the phrase genius of X, Y, or Z thing being used in different contexts. So I think I can find this quote, but like Lee, for example, in part one, is referred to as a genius of hard work, and that he's able to, through his dedication, through his consistency and training and all that, he's able to achieve a level of acumen that even the so-called natural geniuses aren't able to achieve as easily. Now, granted, that's challenged a little bit by folks like Sasuke, so you can come to different conclusions as to whether you personally believe the characters in Naruto have, if hard work does actually beat latent genius. It does seem like that theme is even more exemplified or more emphasized rather in Boruto, right? Especially with the concept of doping being introduced. Um, but yeah, that being said, I think that at the very least, the author um, presents us with multiple different versions of the term intelligence and genius, and then leaves it up to us to to figure out how we relate to those depictions of intelligence. But I can definitely imagine, like neurodivergent kids latching on to and relating hardcore to certain characters in this series. Sai is a great example as well. But lots of different characters who have limitations and things that hold them back and things that make them feel cast out or lesser than, and then they're able to turn that into something beautiful, something meaningful. Um, so even in an even greater sense, it's about finding your own unique talent, not just intelligence. But anyway, Naruto's intelligence in and of itself is something that I think is worth highlighting. Also, I don't know if this is if this is fuck, why am I failing at the word? Intentional. I don't know if this is intentional, but I wonder if this is like a little bit of visual priming for Naruto's association with swirls and spirals and shit later on. I have a feeling that if we go and look for imagery of that nature throughout the series, we'll probably find quite a bit. So, and thank you for your patience with me being a little late tonight, and thank you for your patience with my scratchy voice. I am getting better, believe it or not, and hopefully within the next week or so, I will be kind of up to snuff. I'm also, I might play some New Vegas on stream at some point. I gotta finish Claire Obscure first, but like now that the Fallout show came out, or season 2 came out of the Fallout show, I've been getting back into the universe, and man, Fallout New Vegas is such an amazing RPG. It's really, really great. I want to talk about it more on stream at some point. But yeah, let me catch up on chat. Really great to see you guys. I'm sorry that you didn't have a chance to set up your cats, Saria. I'll make sure to give an ample warning next time so that well, I still see a couple of them hiding out in the boxes getting ready, but yeah, you didn't get to do your cat cleansing ritual. I saw those pictures you posted in Discord of the snow. I hope that you are keeping safe and warm amidst everything. Like, we're getting hit pretty hard over here as well, but you know, we got snacks and we got warm stuff, blankets out and all that. So I think it'll be okay. I hope you're doing okay as well. Um, let's see. You're still running your carry stuff. You have 30K words. That's amazing. I'm really, really glad to see that you are um, still investing in that. It's been really, really cool to see your passion. Again, I'm sorry that I don't have more to offer in Ray conversation. I am still on my horror movie kick, and I do need to get around to actually seeing that movie. I did watch a bunch of horror movies recently that I could potentially recommend. Let's see. Um, I think I saw When Evil Lurks, which was okay. I saw Bring Her Back, which was really good. Not, I didn't love it, but I could tell it was extremely well made. I saw what else? I saw a short horror movie called Chime, which was not exactly scary, but it did have some disturbing moments that were genuinely like, wow, okay, that crept up on me. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but it's only 40 minutes long, but it was definitely like worth the watch, and especially if you like J horror, it's stuff of that particular pacing and all that. I thought it was like very well done. I saw The Conjuring, which I think I saw before, but I didn't remember anything about it. That movie's really stupid at times, but it's also like very enjoyable. And there's, it's weird. Like that movie scared me. Like I saw the Terrifier series as well, and The Conjuring scared me more than Terrifier, which is really weird since Terrifier actually has like much more vivid, gory imagery. But there was something about the presentation of it that was just like so goofy and over the top that like I don't know. I didn't feel except for a couple of scenes. I didn't really feel the sort of empathetic like gross out reaction because I was just like, oh, that's a cool prop. It just kind of felt a little fake. But the performance of Art the Clown, like that actor, just like brings that character to life in such a like disturbing and charming way. But yeah, like the level of gore there is just so over the top and so silly that it doesn't really get to me because it doesn't feel grounded at all. But something about some of the imagery in The Conjuring, even though it's a much tamer film, and there's a lot of goofiness with the plot and exposition and stuff. But like, there's some stuff in there that's like, oh, okay, that kind of got under my skin, you know. So yeah, I why the hell am I talking about this? Oh yeah, because I need to get around to watching Carrie, and I will. Just like I will get around to reading Poon Poon and going through the House in Fata Morgana. Uh, yeah, it's been a rough month or so with the sickness and stuff at work. I won't say I almost quit at work. I didn't get quite that far, but man, like the last week at work, I was like done. I just like so many things came to a head, and I was so tired of the um, just the friction that I was getting. Basically, not to whine about it too much, but I was in a situation where pretty much anything I did, like I was given a lot of pressure to get certain things done in a certain time frame, and I was volunteering like extra of my time as well, which you shouldn't do depending on the project. And then time and time and time again, I would turn something in, and then I would find out the next day that it just got erased and somebody else redid it. And it wasn't like I did a bad job or they had a problem with it. It's just like somebody on a higher level made the arbitrary decision, hey, we're not using this anymore, and the feature got cut or something, which happens from time to time, but it happened like every week. And so I was just like, when I tried to bring up the concerns, nobody was listening. It was extremely fucking frustrating. So that while I was already sick, I just kind of got to this point where I was like, if I don't create some emotional distance from this, it's going to drive me fucking crazy. Um, so I had to kind of learn the lesson of communicating my concerns earlier and better in a more mature way, so like I can own that. But then I also had to realize like you can't um, you can't care more about something than it is willing to reflect. That was very awkwardly phrased, but like there are definitely some projects, some opportunities where like it actually benefits you and the project and other people to throw yourself into it. And like if you have to work overtime or if you have to like go the extra mile on something, that's good because you can see the tangible benefits. Obviously, you need to set boundaries and protect yourself and like live your life, not get exploited. But it's like part of the fun of it is feeling like you're struggling uphill a little bit with other people who've got your back and like you're figuring stuff out. Like that's part of what I love about game dev. I actually don't mind crunch as long as it's well managed and like people consent to it and aren't like bullied into it, because everybody getting together for a month or so and being like, we're really going to push hard, we're going to be here like 6 days a week, it's going to be fucking hard, but then when we get through it, this is going to be special. That can be a lot of fun, actually, especially if you get overtime pay. But if it's like you're you and a couple other people are doing that but nobody else is paying attention, and then like all your work gets thrown away every day, it's like at a certain point you just have to walk away. At a certain point you just have to be like, you know what, these are my limits. I can't keep giving myself to this if it doesn't give back. So that's part of the reason why I've probably been a little bit like more ornery lately. It's just like fucking. There's only so much I can do, you know. But anyway, I'm really glad to hear that you are still writing. I can't wait to see what you come up with. It's very encouraging and inspiring and awesome to see all the stuff you've been doing. Magog, I owe you some views. I think the algorithm has cursed me lately, and I haven't been getting as many updates about your content. So I will do my rounds and check in on your stuff. I don't know why. Like I didn't change anything about my settings, but I just, now that I'm thinking about it, I haven't gotten um, any updates or notifications for a little bit, so I'll have to go double check that. But I hope everything you've been working on has been good and fun and fulfilling. It's always great to see the stuff that you come out. I always love it. So please, hope you feel encouraged to keep, keep exploring your stuff. It's always fucking cool. No setup this time. Apprentice only action. Yeah, I just had to kind of come out swinging, I guess. No hand signs, only streaming. Man, I miss hand signs, honestly. Like, they added so much to the magic system, and so much complexity and intricacy to the design of the, like, expressivity as well, to how characters communicated their power into the world, if that makes sense. So I am sad to kind of see that tapered off later in the series, but also, I can also understand why the creator wouldn't necessarily have wanted to like consistently do the thing that Kakashi and Zabuza did, where they're like, is it this chapter where they just have that clash where they're doing hand signs over and over again for the water dragon jutsu. Let's see. It is a really fucking cool scene, though. Like, I'm glad that it exists. But from a creative standpoint, I can also understand why you wouldn't want to have to do this sort of thing every single time, characters. Because if this is just like all of this complexity for a jutsu, which is genuinely really impressive and really cool, especially for this part of the story, but ultimately, if this is what, in order to pull something off that's this complex, what would the hand signs need to be for like the Chibaku Tensei, right? Or any other like high level jutsu, like I don't know, flame caterwaul or bomb blast dance or whatever. I guess it's more it keeps the momentum of the show going when you don't have to like take a break, for everybody to charge up their hand signals or whatever. Look, this is like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 22, 33, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So is that 53 individual? Oh, that, and then the tori at the end. So 54 hand signs for that, water dragon missile, assuming that each of these characters corresponds to a hand sign individually. That's a lot, If you extrapolate that more advanced jutsu require more advanced hand signs, then yeah, it's like, how much time can the author really break off and take to dedicate to this every single time? I don't know. But yeah, you turned. Oh, so yeah, sorry. You're 300,000 words now. You're turning one for class like a drafting cut. Man, that's awesome. Congratulations on that. I hope the internship is going well as well. By the way, I see you posted in Discord a photo of what looked like a like a control room, which looks really fucking cool. I hope you're pacing yourself, of course. I imagine you have a ton on your plate, but yeah, it's really cool to see all the stuff that you've been coming up with. You say it's more like an analysis of Carrie White's lesbianism that it is in the novel. That is in the novel, but it's only adapted in the 2013 movie. And Magog says, even better, I'd say. Well, glad to have the stream regardless. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. It's always awesome to hang out with you guys. And I'm in a weird, I guess, position where, I mean, I love talking about this stuff. I kind of, am a little hesitant to show up, and if I don't have like a topic in mind, or if I'm just gonna like, if I'm gonna be grudging and making this voice the whole time, like I feel a little sheepish about being monotone or whatnot. But it's still something to look forward to every week for me. And I always wind up learning something new in preparation. I will say for this week, like it's also just kind of been nice, like when doing the horse math streams or whatever, or the Universal Naruto streams. Like I had to do a lot of research, like watching the footage of the games that I hadn't played yet, and trying to learn a little bit about quantum physics and shit like that. And for this, it was just like this is a topic that I already kind of am familiar with. That pretty much anybody I think could just pick up by reading the manga, right? You don't have to take a fucking MIT open courseware fucking primer and quantum physics or whatnot to be able to have a discussion about this stuff. So so it's fun. Um, but yeah, I really look forward to seeing what you are able to generate with your continued analysis. I think we need more queer readings of things. Like as you know by this point, like that video by Sybil about the queer reading of Naruto is one of my favorite Naruto videos. Period. Even if the author never intended for there to be explicitly queer themes or whatever, which in Carrie's case I think it is probably more explicit. Um, it's like this is a part of people's lives and part of people's identities that doesn't get talked enough about or talked about enough, and the fact that you can still draw parallels and gain insight and um, share empathetically with others what it might be like for you via a character who embodies these concepts and principles. I think it's a good way to like, for lack of a better word, be ambassadorial and kind of help other people gain a perspective into your experience. If you can be like, okay, you understand what this character in this movie is going through. Well, now that's kind of like what I have to deal with, or like this is why I relate to that character, right? Like help people bridge the gap. Honestly, like back when I was edgier and I was like on the precipice of, you know, like Gamergate, YouTube, and all that, which I'm embarrassed to admit, but it's true. Like I was almost like I used to watch like channels like Mr. Medicare and bullshit like that, and I'm like I could have gotten down a rabbit hole that would have been hard to get out of. I'm very glad that I didn't fall for that. Um, but anyway, like there were two things that kind of changed my perspective on things. Um, with regards to I didn't like understand being trans. I didn't understand trans identity. My only exposure to trans folks was a couple of people in my social circle who were just annoying jerks. And it wasn't their fault. Like they had issues that they were dealing with, and I should have been more empathetic about it. But like I didn't get along with them, and also they were trans or gender questioning, gender transitioning. I'm not sure how they identified at the time, but as a result, I like was just like, oh, trans identity is just something annoying people that I don't like do, and so I don't need to learn about it. And I also was highly resistant to people who did things that I thought was like making them a snowflake or like calling them out as being special. It's that old bullshit like conservative rhetoric that you'll hear of like, well, why are you so special when there are other, like, why should we care about your problems when there are other people who have worse problems? That sort of thing. Like, what makes you so special? Um, and so I had the opportunity to talk to like one person about it, and that person just gave me the time of day and was patient with me and explained like, no, this is actually not correct. This is what the experience of this person is like I as a trans person, this is what I go through, this is what I understand, and here's like a resource where you can learn more. And that literally overnight I became like, is it pretentious to say an ally, like a supporter? I don't know what the correct word is, but like I'm like, okay, I understand this, I was wrong, I need to learn more about this, and I get it better now. And like I will absolutely vote for trans rights and defend trans folk and like advocate for inclusion and acceptance. um And all it took was just like somebody being patient with me and explaining it to me in a way that I could understand, that I could connect with, getting a chance to directly empathize with somebody in a calm way, um, based on like that conversation, like changed my life literally. And another one, this is super silly, but like I remember when the trailer for the 2016 Ghostbusters movie came out, it was all female cast in terms of the primary cast. And they had Chris Hemsworth, I think the guy who plays Thor, right? And he in the Avengers movies, and he was like just this dumb bimbo, or himbo rather, who was like super super hot, and like they were in a conventionally attractive sense, I guess, and they were all drooling over him, and they basically just had him in the office as a sex object. And at the time, I was still in that kind of phase, and I was like, oh, I see. So this is what women really want. They don't want us to be smart, and they don't want us to be like sensitive and caring. They just want like a big hunk of like meat to slather over and drool over and like objectify, and you know. And then I sat there for like a minute being mad, and then I was like, wait, I bet that's like how every woman feels all the time about every female character in every movie ever, right? Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but how many, especially in the games industry, though, like, um, how many women in games have, traditionally been treated as just objects for the male gaze, and treated as like prizes to be won. And at the time, I was sort of like annoyed by Anita Sarkeesian, annoyed by like the pro feminist movement in video games. I thought they were like wasting time and just being annoying. But then I was like, no, you know what? Like, I, for one very, very brief moment while watching this trailer for a movie that I don't even care about, I felt gross and objectified. Wow, it probably feels like that all the time for a lot of people, and I never even stopped to think about it, right? I just needed that hook. I needed the one little thing to break through my facade of, or like, uh, shell, I guess, of lack of empathy, and then I was like, much more open to it. And I would call myself a feminist. Like, I am a feminist now. I used to hate that term. I used to think it was pretentious and stupid. And then, like, somebody talked to me about it and explained it to me. And I was like, yes, I get it now, right? So you never know who you might wind up, like, opening their eyes. And about a topic like this, if you can just connect with somebody about, it doesn't even have to be like de-radicalization or like making somebody woke, if you even like that word or whatever, or like making somebody pro LGBT whereas they weren't before. Even just like getting them to understand you better as a person, right? Sometimes having that media connection like legitimately can change people's lives and like wake them up. So not to put too much pressure on you, of course, but your yeah, your work there, I think, if you need any extra motivation, I am confident that it will help people better understand lesbian representation in media, just based on what you like. I've already learned from you, um, by reading your posts. So yeah. Anyway, Saria says, like, if you read the Carrie novels, she's like very blatantly a lesbian. They don't say the word, but the fact that she's not interested in boys, she's terrified of being trapped in a heterosexual relationship to the point of tears, like she's homosexual. Yeah, that all checks out. That all scans for sure. Um, Darth Magog says, I always read her as kind of ace. That could be too. Yeah. I feel like maybe more so these days, but like ace representation, I'm guessing, is probably right up there or right down there with bisexual male representation as not really being a thing that's explored a whole lot. And frankly, I think that the lack of understanding of ace folks is probably, if I had to guess, this is just conjecture, but like probably less overtly hostile than like LGBT per se. But there is a certain air of condescension that I also was sadly like a part of when I didn't understand it, where there's just a general lack of empathy and understanding, because like sex is important and a big part of life and a very strong motivator and like an anchor of many relationships to so many people, that like not under like it's inconceivable that somebody else would not want that. And I think it's like almost an existential challenge, um you know to some people, that like wait, what do you mean? Like that's not even possible, right? And they have to interrogate it, they have to question it, and that can feel pretty alienating and pretty rude, to be on the receiving end of, right? So anything that helps promote better understanding, like I do think representation is very important for that reason. So yeah, and other reasons too. Let's see. And the only 2013 movie says sorry. Oh, and only the 2013 movie actually takes that core of the character and implements it on screen instead of erasing it, which it sucks as a lesbian actress and lesbian director had to make this happen. But oh yeah, that's I think it is kind of a shame on the one hand that it has to be like nobody else would create the opportunity. And had to take quote unquote took a lesbian to come along to do it. But at the same time, I guess you kind of want somebody who has a direct experience with that sort of thing to tell the story, right? Um, it doesn't not necessarily that you have to be a lesbian to depict a lesbian correctly or fully, but you would imagine that at least a lesbian actor or director or producer, like at least one person as or writer or something as part of the team should be there. I think to help tell the story. Like if you're gonna tell the story of I don't know, a black family escaping slavery, and then how that causes a generational trauma, and like how people deal with that, and how that affects the community. I'm not saying that you can't be like a white person in America and tell that story, right? But like also maybe maybe you should consult. Maybe you should have people with you. Maybe it's not like necessarily a story that belongs to you. And if you're gonna tell it anyway, well, maybe you should get some help. Maybe you should, like, you know, at the very least, have it be a collaboration. So especially since minority stories don't always get told well in the first place. So let people tell their own stories for the love of fuck. Anyway, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here. None of this has anything to do with Naruto, but well, I mean, I guess it does because there are underrepresented groups who are given screen time in Naruto in an important way, I think, as well. Um, Honestly, says Darth, I think Naruto is roughly of average intelligence. He's book dumb, but he's about as smart as your average guy. He just has to live in a world where everyone is a tactical and intellectual genius. That's a good point. So your perspective seems to be that it's not like he is particularly superior intellectually, but like genetically or whatever. But from a nature versus nurture standpoint, the world in which he is nurtured requires, like, in order to survive, requires a certain amount of a particular set of skills, and so whereas an average person in our time to be able to think up a strategy that Naruto thinks up, for me or you to be able to do that, that would require very specialized intelligence. And if we just innovated, excuse me, and spontaneously came up with that, that would be like, whoa, where did that come from? But since Naruto was kind of like dyed in the wool with it, so to speak, from a young age, that the criteria for evaluating his intelligence would be a little bit different. That's an interesting idea. I like that. No, I do still think though that at the end of the day, he has to be very creative, right? And he has to think multiple steps ahead and like envision potential counters to what he's doing, and then respond very quickly to incoming stimuli. Be able to mount responses. It's a lot of flexible, adaptive, like, I don't know how to say, reconfiguration of a strategy. And I do think that takes a certain kind of intelligence, right? It's you can't do that randomly, I don't think, unless you have like some kind of crazy intuition or reflexes. So maybe you can, maybe Lee can, even if he's not as smart as Naruto. I'm not sure, but yeah. Let's see. It takes a lot, but I'm glad we got the remake. Yeah, that's a good point. Sari says, honestly, I would have read her as Ace, but there's a lot of moments where she's specifically focused on women's bodies. Their breasts, especially, something that always catches her eyes. Oh, interesting. Okay. Also, there's that extremely intimate thing with her and Sue reading each other's minds. Sue thinking of Carrie whilst having sex with Tommy, which is in 2013 awesomely. Like, there's a lot in the book. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I also think that, like, I don't know. I don't want to comment on it too much because I don't know I don't have any ace friends at the moment, and I don't know enough about what that experience is like that I would want to speak about it. But I imagine that some ace folks do have sex and then wind up discovering that it's not for them. Um, and so it could be that parts of Carrie's experience and her identity and her presentation is still something that ace folks can connect to, um, even though she is sexually active in the story. It could be the sort of thing where a lot of different like underrepresented groups are reflected in her trials and tribulations. Like I don't. This is apocryphal. I would have to go like look into this, but my previous partner told me that there was a trans girl who was, I think, like a blogger or something, who was suicidal, but had kind of been brought back from the brink after watching Kill la Kill because she saw what's her name, Miruko Matoi. She saw like the protagonist's um, you know acceptance of her body and being willing to fully display and essentially like be nude, and her power coming from nudity, which I personally chafe at a little bit. I see that as potentially exploitative, potentially like, you know, male gazy. I wonder about that, but that's just my opinion. This person, she was like very inspired by it and very touched by it, and like um, took inspiration from the fact that like, yeah, this person was self-conscious and shy and unwilling to reveal herself, but then in doing so she became comfortable with her own um, like bodily presentation, bodily physical identity, and then that helped this person like heal and get better in touch with her own body and like transition and all that stuff. So you never know what can wind up inspiring people. Um, so and like what not just that, but like what people can connect to and relate to, I think is also um, pretty important. The song, I don't know if you know like Portal 2. This is a random shit, but like in Portal 2 there's a song that plays um in certain parts of the game called Exile Vilify by a band called The National. And like I was when I played that game, I didn't even really pay attention to it. It just seemed like this kind of cute silly song that played sometimes. And then I rediscovered that song when I was like really depressed. Like I had a summer that was very difficult where I basically didn't leave my apartment for like 2 months or so. I kept the shades all the way down. Um, like I hardly talked to friends or family at all, and I just like didn't want to be seen. If I had to go out, I would go out at like 2 or 3 in the morning. I would go get like super like late night food at like the late night Wendy's or whatever, or like Domino's, and I just like shut myself out from the world. And the more time that I spent in that state, the harder and harder it was to get out of it. And then I heard that song, and it was like, oh shit, it helped. It's so simple, it's such a short song, but it like connected with me deeply, and it helped me kind of like break out of it because it's like, oh, I can empathize. Like somebody out there gets it. Somebody out there has been through something silly, and like I never would have, or similar, excuse me, not silly. I never would have found it if not for these little stupid silly singing turrets in fucking Portal, right? So the little ripples that you can create if you just make stuff, man. Like whoever's listening to this, if there's something that you've been thinking of making, just do it. As long as you feel good about doing so. Like you never know. You never know how it can wind up connecting with somebody else and making their day better. Um, yeah, I believe in that very strongly. Sorry says, I'm sorry that your job is being rough. I can't give any sweet nothings because I'm only an intern and there's no guarantee I'll end up working at JPL, but it still sucks. Oh, that's okay. I appreciate you letting me vent and whine about it. Honestly, I have to remember a couple things. At the end of the day, I get to work from home um, with my pets in my house. With my partner, when she's sick, I can take care of her more easily from home. Um, I get to, for better for worse, I get to not deal with that social anxiety that comes in working with in like a high-paced setting, which I never really liked all that much to begin with. And I get to work on video games, which is like my dream job. The games industry is extremely volatile. Um, And a lot of times, like people are constantly losing their jobs, and I have a pretty secure position. I mean, famous last words, right? But it feels pretty decently secure right now. Um, so really, what it is, it's not even like any job that you work, any company that you're in, any organization. There's going to be people who let their egos get in the way. Sometimes myself, I'm guilty of this, and terrible decisions that are made, and then that comes with a certain amount of cynicism and hostility. But at the end of the day, um, I think what I had to learn, like trying to figure out what I can do about it, is just to set my own boundaries and limits, right? Like you can only give so much of yourself. If the thing isn't giving back, if it's not reciprocating, it becomes unhealthy and a drain. And I decided, I think I told you about this too. Like I decided, okay, anytime somebody at work cares 50% less than I think they should, I'm going to care 150% more, which sounds pretentious as I say it out loud now, but I was like, I'm tired of the cynicism, I'm tired of the like dejection or whatever, so I'm just going to push, 1.5 times as hard to make up for that. But it's like, I don't know if I can think of an analogy. It's like trying to pour 100 for 50% volume of water into a glass, right? It's just gonna spill all over the fucking place. Like it doesn't matter that you're trying to pour it in. It's gonna fall off onto the sides, if that makes sense. It's gonna just get all over the place, right? Because it's not designed for that. It just will not work. And then at a certain point, I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna do everything I can every day to try to get the glass to at least 90% full. Try to get to 100 if I can, but I'm not going to sit here and like continue pouring on top and on top on top over and over again if it's just going to go to waste, right? Just like that was a good lesson for me. So now I can focus on the positive stuff. It's super fucking cool that you're at the JPL. I still can't get over how fucking awesome that is. Oh my god. Saria says, I can only speak from the perspective of I hated seeing Walmart overwork my big sister. Oh my god, that had to be miserable. Yeah. I can only speak from the. Oh, sorry. You plan to make your carry writing into a video when you're done, so I'm ready to give everyone who is subbing for Zelda Insane Whiplash. Dude, that's going to be awesome. It's going to be great because you're like, I think, whenever you get a subscriber, um, they there's probably, I mean, I don't know, my own subscribers hearing this might disagree, but I think usually like when I subscribe to a channel, it's always comes in two parts. If I find like a good Helldivers channel, for example, I really like the video game Helldivers too, I'm gonna subscribe to the guy or the girl or the the human being. I'm going to subscribe to their channel because A, I like the way that they're engaging with the content, but B, I find them agreeable or interesting as a person. And so even if one of those things falls away, like they stop doing the content on Helldivers, chances are I'm going to stick around because I'm still interested in like spending time, quote unquote, virtually with a person of that nature. Similarly, if I find out that I dislike their personality, I might still stick around for the content that I'm interested in. So, you know, actually, I've left quite a few channels if I find out that they have like shitty political beliefs or whatever. You know what I mean, right? So, like, I think you should feel encouraged to develop things that you are passionate about and take genuine joy in, because that part of your personality that people already like from the Zelda videos will shine through. And even though you're not like actively in the moment talking about Zelda, which maybe they signed up for, I think a lot of your fan base, so to speak, will gravitate towards, the Saria branded passion and interest and blah blah blah. Hopefully that makes some sense. Dr. Magog says the feeling when you realize the Zelda channel you sub to is an LGBTQ plus literally analysis channel. Yeah, that's the thing. That I do see that sometimes. I see some people like genuinely surprised when they find out that a content creator that they like is queer. Like they assume something about their identity and they're like, yeah, well, at least you're one of the good ones who doesn't put up with those gays, right? And they're like, I've been gay this whole time. And then you give them like a little mini existential crisis where they have to be like, damn it, I actually like a gay person. Fuck, what do I do now? So I think that's a great way to, I don't know, challenge preconceived notions just by, like, I asked my friend, my best friend is gay, and at one point, Sorry about that. Before I openly identified as queer myself, I asked like what can I do to help? What can I do to be a good ally? And his response was like, just be a good person. Like just be good to people. Just like treat people well and um, you know do that while being an out like liking gay people, supporting gay people, whatever. Like be good and be in support of us, and that will be enough. Just put positivity out there in the world while being a member, supporter, or representative of the thing that you care about, and that creates an association between the goodness that you create and the um, organization or group of people or ideology or whatever that you're representing, right? And at the end of the day, you just make the world a little better, hopefully. I apologize for the awkward timing. I am going to run to the bathroom real quick. I'll be back in like 2 minutes. Okay, hello. Bit of a weird stream tonight, but sometimes it's nice to just chill. And so many fucking streams where I was like, here is a list of 8,762 mistakes that this motherfucker made. And I'm gonna go through every single motherfucking last one of them. I was just like, sometimes this is like the Bob Ross Naruto stream. Sometimes we just make happy little accidents. Sometimes we make happy little hand signs. Just gotta chill, make a splash, relax a little bit, hang out on some water. Change the valence a little bit. Anyway, minority stories don't get told in general, says Magog. That's why George Lucas sold Star Wars. That's a good point. Yeah, I imagine that there's quite a bit of folks in the that might feel a little bit downtrodden, like the underdog, who can relate to Luke's quest for sure. Sire says, honestly, that makes sense. Like, if you lived in Marvel or DC, he'll go a step further and say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You could be an honor student and feel dumb because of the characters. Yeah. Naruto is super creative, out of the box thinker. His ADHD adds to it. Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it as well. Makeup says you gotta jump to Lightspeed. Cool. You jump to Lightspeed. Anniversary dinner time, heading into town. Happy anniversary! That's so cool. Congratulations. I hope you're doing well. I hope Miss Magog and you have a wonderful night together. And just take care. Thank you so much for stopping by. Much love to you guys and the partners. You too as well. 100%. I don't know if you will listen back to this later, but in Italian there's a phrase altrettanto, which I love a whole lot. It basically means like back to you times 10. So altrettanto, eh? Saria says, no, Carrie isn't sexually active. Oh, I'm sorry. But she's sexually longing. She has a sexual tension, but it's only aimed towards girls, and it's something Margaret... I thought you said that, like, she had sex with somebody, like a dude, but, Tom? But she was thinking about another character. Did I misread that? Or maybe we were talking about the other movie. Sorry if I misunderstood. Let's see. You bathe with other girls, you have lustful thoughts. And this is after she's already beat Carrie and locked her in the closet for looking at Estelle's dirty pillows. I see. Okay, I think I understand. Bathroom break. Yep, I made sure to hit the hand sanitizer, don't worry. If Bob Ross was in Naruto, he'd be Naruto Sensei along with Jiraiya. Yeah, I think that they, their energies could kind of balance each other out. Honestly, like, Kakashi has his moments of kind of zen and chill, where he feels like a little bit more laid back, I think he and Bob Ross would get along, but also I don't know that Bob Ross would ever bring himself. It would be kind of amusing to see Bob Ross go like critical and be like, "Oh, you just made your last happy little mistake, motherfucker." After he goes after Zabuza. That'd be pretty cool. I bet he would be a good teacher for Sai, though. I could see him like hanging out with him and getting him to express himself through his art better. You imagine, Sue has sex with Tommy and Sue thinks of Carrie. Okay, I might have just misunderstood that. Thank you for the clarification, though. But yeah, like, I would love to see Sasori, Deda, and Sai taking like a comedy episode or something where they're all taking like an art lesson from Bob Ross and him like evaluating their different quirks and artistic rules and insecurities and everything else. Okay, so that being said, let's talk a little bit about Naruto's intelligence. Honestly, I'm getting really tired already. This cold is kicking my ass, but let's see if we can at least like deal with the topic that I fucking brought up in the first place for the stream this evening. So I want son of all the bitches in Hades. So we'll start off by talking a little bit about how Naruto's presented as a bit of a class clown, and his initial interactions with Kakashi. Obviously here, all the way back in chapter 4, I think this moment, even though it is minor, kind of does a great job at setting up Naruto being unpredictable. And yeah, Jonathan versus Emphysema. John the John the Craven versus I got no puns. Um, I was trying to make like a like John versus John is the coughing baby versus the hydrogen bomb. That's how I feel sometimes, but it's the cough is the hydrogen bomb in my case. My goodness. It sucks. I'm not gonna lie. It's like really fucking annoying. Um, I can't like eat anything with salt because I will just like shrivel up and die. Um, but here we are anyway. Let's see. So Sasuke is like, no wait, could it's just Fear Shinobi. Oh yeah, yeah. What is it talking about? So I think it does a good job of setting up, Naruto's how do you say? Sorry, now I got another issue to deal with. 1 second. So so we talked before about how like Naruto is perceived as being um wow, I just like my brain just shut the fuck off. It's just like that cock knocked some fucking neurons loose. Holy shit, dude. Has that ever happened to you? You're just like, I know I had a thought in my head, and now I'm just looking at this big gaping fucking hole where it used to be. What I was trying to say is that I think that this sets up Naruto's intelligence versus his unpredictability pretty well, right? Like, this is a tiny moment, it doesn't really matter, but at the same time, what's happening here is that Naruto is doing something that's kind of like punkish, kind of unconventional. It's so silly and so goofy that, like, you wouldn't even think that somebody would actually ever try to do this. And so, yeah, it's unpredictable in the fact that, like, you know, who would imagine that a kid would do this sort of prank on his superior, especially on the first day where they're meeting him. That is not something that Kakashi predicted. But also, it was relatively intelligent, right? Like, this is not the most genius move in the world, but it does show some forethought. It does show some planning, and he does manage to pull it off. So he is a dunce. He is a goofball. He puts himself in danger unnecessarily, but at the same time, assuming that Kakashi didn't just let it happen, he does manage to perform a maneuver, perform a small tactical feat that still gets around Kakashi's defenses of all people. Now, of course, it's just a gag, right? It could very well be that Kakashi didn't just like let it happen to be funny or whatever. That would be in keeping with his personality. Although this is kind of funny, I totally forgot about this. Naruto not only is practicing his striking strength and like training up his physical body, but look, he's actually considering tactics. Hold on to his sleeve and punch him there. If Master Kakashi comes at me from this angle, I'll parry like so, but then I'll try to sweep me with his right hand, and then I'll kick him in the balls. So he's goofy, he's brash, he's uncultured, he's unrefined, but at the same time, look what he's doing. Like, he is practicing multi-step plans. He is developing his tactics. He's trying to think of counters to counters, even in like chapter 4 in this very simple situation, right? Um, let's see. Osaria says Yoshi's in the Mario Galaxy movie trailer. He's so cute. Oh god, I'm gonna check that out right after the stream. I really I grew up loving Yoshi. And honestly, funny enough, like Yoshi's inclusion in Super Mario World was one of the things that kind of got me into game audio. Um, Game sound design, game audio is something I'm very passionate about, and like the effect that they do in the soundtrack of Super Mario World, where they'll like add an extra layer of drums when Yoshi's on screen, is fucking great. It just adds so much life to the to the game. And I think that's probably one of the earliest examples of a dynamic music system, which are I've worked on a couple of dynamic music systems in my career as well. And like Zelda, obviously, like Wind Waker was something that I explicitly like studied when I was working on the music system for a certain game that I did 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 or 50 or 100 years ago. I'll never tell. But I did work on this music system for a game, and I studied like what they did with Wind Waker, which involved not only having like the various layers kind of come in and out as your proximity is to an enemy changes, but also like the pseudo beat synced like when the action button kind of highlights and gets all spiky, and you end up coming in for like a roll around attack from the back and stuff like that. There are all these little musical cues that kind of jump in and accentuate the important moments of your fights. Not to mention, of course, like the actual procedural dynamic music that they have in Breath of the Wild, which is a whole other subject. It's like incredible what they came up with for that. And they give every single creature their own like motif and their own timbre and stuff. It's really cool. Nintendo, it probably goes without saying, have been innovators in the game audio space forever. So yeah. You demand a Mama Luigi joke in the movie. Yeah, I would love to see that, dude. I mean, like the Sonic movies have set an excellent precedent for fan service. Not that kind of fan service, but like little jokes and quirks and quips and Easter eggs, and people love going through and finding all of them, and they are more than happy to incorporate memes as well. Like one of the animated Spider-Man movies that came out recently had like the three Spider-Man pointing at each other, like imposter Spider-Man or whatever that meme is, right? They incorporated that. I think that people are more understanding of the value of connecting to the zeitgeist like that, which is pretty cool. So yeah, they might actually put like a YTP reference in there somewhere, or even if they don't consider it like a YTP reference, just reference to Hotel Mario, there's probably something like that. Assuming that you've seen the first movie, I actually quite liked the first movie. Plot wise, it wasn't anything incredibly special, but there was a lot of fun to it. I will say though that the idea of the Kong army was so fucking bizarre. Like for Nintendo of all people, or of all like production companies, to look at Donkey Kong and Cranky Kong and be like, yeah, let's take these goofy, lovable, brash characters who just want to get their bananas back and make them like leaders of a mercenary assault squadron. It's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? It kind of worked, which is the fucked up thing. But yeah. So going back to Naruto's intelligence briefly. Interesting here that Kakashi doesn't say like, no, I let that happen, right? So it might be the case that Kakashi did actually get, like he looks like he's kind of deflecting. He's like, you talk a big talk, but let's actually see what you're capable of, as opposed to saying, yeah, you got me that one time, right? But so here's something where you could look at Naruto's movements and say he's stupid. I don't think he's stupid here. I think he is unwise. So in other words, it's not that he lacks critical reasoning skills, but he's acting in a way that is brash, and he didn't think things through, right? He made an unwise and immature decision, and then he gets his ass kicked, obviously. That being said, he did kind of internalize what Kakashi was saying, but let's go on and see how he recovers from that, right? Like, is there an intelligence feat in Naruto's like first skirmish, right? So when Sasuke is hiding himself, Sakura's hiding herself, you might expect that Naruto would also try to conceal himself, even if he's not good at it. But in a way, he's kind of aware of his own limitations, right? And he kind of comes out forward being brash, and like Sasuke obviously calls him a fool. It's perceived as though he is being an idiot, but at the same time, it's like he's not going to waste time and energy and effort on something that he knows he's not great at, right? Like, especially at this part in the story, he has like no points in his stealth skill tree. So why would he try to skulk around like everybody else is doing? Makes much more sense for him to just kind of come out here. I don't necessarily think that he's thinking about it that intensely, but it is notable that the way that he's approaching the fight, I think, is appropriate for his own skill set, right? Obviously, like, he lets his temper get to him. He acts in an incredibly immature and impetuous way and gets his ass kicked again. Let's see how he responds to that, though, right? So he could continue to rush headlong into battle. He could continue to fuck with Kakashi over and over again and just like ram his head against the wall, hoping that it would break. But instead of that, he sends two shuriken out of the water and they form a distraction, right? Somehow he's able to see that from underwater and see this happening. So he did innovate by trying to use a ranged weapon as opposed to just melee strikes, right? And after analyzing that, despite being mad, despite being like, pissed off and having all of these like jeering thoughts echoing in his mind, he still, makes himself determined. He uses another jutsu, comes out, and I think manages to get Kakashi to lower his guard. Yeah, like he manages to hold those clones underwater throughout that entire conversation and quote unquote takes him off guard. Now, obviously, Kakashi might have seen this coming, but at least it's something. At least it's an innovation. And not only that, he has something that Naruto does constantly is that he sets expectations and then he exploits those expectations. And this is why people think that he's unpredictable. If you actually study Naruto as a fighter, like if we were to try to be commentators, right, and like in the Naruto universe and start commentating on their fights, I think we would be able to pretty quickly figure Naruto out as a person. Like he has a fighting style, he has a way that he approaches his conflicts, his bouts or whatever, just like any like prize fighter or whatnot. He is somebody who has his strengths and weaknesses and his styles and all that, and that's something that we can as readers identify very quickly and very readily. 1 second. Sorry, just blew my nose and figured you wouldn't want to hear that. Um, yeah, so like it's not like he's moving around like a drunken boxer where he's completely illegible, completely unpredictable, and just flailing around crazily so that nobody can tell what he's doing. He has a very distinct pattern that emerges over and over again in his fights, and one of the things that he does though is that he comes right out and shows his weaknesses, whether he means to or not, by exposing himself and acting like an idiot. And this pretty consistently results in his opponents letting their guard down because they underestimate him. There's a difference between being unable to predict what somebody is going to do and underestimating them and not taking them seriously enough. And honestly, what Naruto's doing here, which is what he does in varieties of his other fights, is that he uses his like stamina, his endurance, his pain tolerance, whatever you want to call it, in order to set the precedent that he is just a goofball, but then uses the opening that he creates in manipulating his opponent's like perception of him to gain an advantage. Now, it's impossible to know for sure whether or not Kakashi like let this happen. I think, obviously I don't think we ever get explicitly told that Kakashi's hearing is enhanced. His nose, like his olfaction, is enhanced by him routing chakra to his nose. I think there's a statement somewhere that says like his nose is even better than like a ninja dog's or whatever. So it's quite possible that he heard Naruto sneaking up on him from behind, but that's not explicitly stated. And I think a valid interpretation of this is that he did actually manage to make contact with Kakashi without him realizing it right away. But then, of course, once he reveals himself, he makes the error, because he's brash and arrogant, to scream at him, and then this happens. So, yeah. That is something that Naruto then needs to overcome over the course of his career as he develops as a fighter. Like, he needs to stop letting his arrogance and his childlike, screaming and everything like that get in the way of him actually being able to execute his plans effectively. But under the hood, under the surface, he's not actually some kind of a mental moron or whatever. I mean, right now, this is pretty stupid, right? As I say this out loud, this happens. But he was still able to pull this off on his own. He innovated multiple times over the course of the fight. And then, Sasuke essentially tries to do the same thing here, right? Waiting for an opening. But in this case, Sasuke exploits an opening that Naruto created, whereas before Naruto himself was the one creating the openings. So, of course, he was like hiding in the bushes the whole time. So, anyway, it's you could definitely dispute some of the stuff I said. You could read this and come to the conclusion that Naruto is really stupid, but I think it's a testament to Kishimoto's world building and to his planning for the long-term development of this character, that the seeds are sown this early on for Naruto having the latent capacity to do things that are very smart and to execute on clever tactical plans, right? So I like the fact that it's set up this early, but it's set up with the character still having flaws and still having a lot of room to grow, which gives us a long time to see that growth happening in a compelling way over the next 600, 700 chapters, whatever. Saria says, honestly, I absolutely adored the first movie, and it made me sad that the Zelda movie will be will be live action. But you will trust the process. The fact that they're almost certainly doing either Ocarina of Time or Breath of the Wild. Oh, interesting. Yeah, actually, minor spoilers for the Fallout TV show 321. The Fallout TV show follows its own story. I thought it was an adaptation, and I had some pretty harsh critiques of certain parts of the story, because I thought that they were mangling the adaptation of parts of the games that I like. But then I found out that it's actually it's part of the timeline, but it does its own thing. I kind of wish that Zelda would do that. I mean, like, Zelda already allows for a lot of similar imagery and character tropes and iconography and, like villains and stuff like that to be carried and reiterated on throughout the series. So having an alternate telling, or like well, not even an alternate telling, like they're just having like a new story that's still, you can tell a new Zelda story with Gorons and Zora and with I don't know, Malon and Talon and or not am I thinking of the correct names? The Lon Lon Ranch folks, they could be in there. Saria, maybe Saria could be in there, but like Epona could be in there. They could have those familiar elements and reuse them from the canon without literally just adapting the story. Personally, I'd kind of like to see that. Oh yeah, you kind of beat me to it, right? Gorons and Zora are either gonna break that movie or make that movie, as I'll say. Yeah, I wonder, honestly, like, it's gonna be tough, right? Because so I just watched the Halo, like part of the Halo TV show, and similarly, you kind of have to nail the elites, and you have to nail the Spartans' armor, and you have two options. One is you can do it with CGI, but it's always going to look kind of weird and kind of off-putting, and clash with the background. Or you can do, like, especially the Spartan armor, like, you can do it with practical effects, and I appreciate that they tried to do that, but, like, man, the fucking Spartans look like Power Rangers villains. They look like Goldar or whatever his name is. Like, the suits are just so stiff and bulky and boxy. It looks like they're running around in like a homemade cardboard Optimus Prime Halloween costume. It's really goofy, and I feel bad because there's so much excellent work done on like prop design, set design, all this other stuff. But then ultimately, like, those costumes, like, anytime they're doing like pretty much anything athletic with the Spartans, which is really fucking important in a Halo show, I just get immediately taken out of it. And so yeah, but I feel like if the whole show was animated, right, if it was like Final Fantasy Advent Children or something, not to age myself or whatever, then it's easier to suspend your disbelief because you don't have these juxtaposing forms of graphics, so to speak. You it's easier anyway for me to kind of buy into it, if that makes sense, if it's not switching. So either do it all CG, or do it all in some sort of an impressionistic art style. This will never happen. Obviously, it'll never happen. But can you imagine how cool it would be if there was like a cell-shaded Wind Waker-inspired show, like with that kind of graphical style? I would fucking love that. But I mean, of course, it's not going to happen. Saria says, if we were commentators, and here comes Naruto with a steel chair. Watch out, watch out, watch out. RKO out of nowhere from Killer Bee. I would honestly love to see that. Um, I'm surprised that there isn't anything like that. I mean, we get like Karin on the sidelines during Sasuke's fights, like commenting, and then of course, like in the Five Kage Summit, like the attendants of the Raikage also have some things to say. All right, 1 second. God damn, I'm tired. Um, oh, hey, how about No? How's it going? Thank you so much for stopping by the stream. It's good to see you again. Hope you've had a good week. How about No says he has a better sense of smell than Kiba, as stated in the second bell test. Ah, okay, gotcha, yeah. I thought there was something about, like, um, maybe I'm thinking of Kiba, right? Like, he's the one who concentrates chakra in his nose so that he even has a better sense of smell than, like, the Kakashi's ninja dogs. I'm probably just getting my facts, like, fucking, like, scrambled up in my head or something. Um, how about No also says, also stated, smarter than Shikamaru and as having better taijutsu than Rock Lee. I wonder if that's, I think you're right about that. I think I remember seeing that statement recently. I wonder if that winds up being uh, the the intention of Kishimoto carrying forward throughout the series, right? Like, by the time we get to the fucking Kakazu fight, right? And Kakashi joins their squadron. I think Kakashi has a statement of like, I can't believe how smart this kid is. He immediately like reconfigured all his plans to account for me being there, etc., etc. I think the there's probably an interpretation, there's probably an argument that by the time you get to part two, like Shippuden era stuff, that Shikamaru is smarter than Kakashi. Uh, I don't know if it's explicitly stated though, but it always like subjectively it always seemed to me like that was kind of the arc, right? That like Shikamaru is the tactical genius. But I mean, I don't know if he ever like sat down and took an IQ test or anything like that with Kakashi in a competition. Saria says 1010 commentating. Oh, see chapter 246. Yeah, let me take a look. Actually, it's a good call. 1010 commentating Neji's fight. Like, girl, he's not gonna fuck you. He's tanking the wood for himself. Oh man. But yeah. Does 1010 ever like connect with anybody? I don't know if her romance is ever explored. I'm sure there's like a one-off panel in Boruto or something that gives her a romance arc. Maybe not. Yeah, let's take a look. Stated by Naruto hasn't seen them post time skip, so yeah. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Let's take a look. Let's see. Very first exercise. Yeah. Everybody gets glum about it. Make a more serious effort this time. Yeah. So I mean, like, we can already see, like, well, first of all, the stakes of this battle are higher than they were before. Like, Kakashi is actually throwing projectiles and stuff at them, right? He's being offensive. He's put the book away. Like, I think honestly, I think that's a great like little visual signal, to let us know that like from the get go that this is going to be a more serious bout. And like, I think it could have also been fun if they like had him keep his book out and then had that be subverted by Naruto. But I think the fact that Kakashi not only starts off by putting his book away, but also starts off with the Sharingan active. I didn't even realize that, right? Like, he is immediately like respecting the two of them. Even though only a couple of years have passed, like, he's attacking them with attacks that could potentially wound them. He is like the master student relationship has significantly evolved, right, from Kakashi's perception. Naruto is able to see the incoming attack, read it, respond to it quickly. I think this is interesting too, based on the what we saw in the Nagato versus, or like the Six Paths of Pain versus Naruto last stream. Remember that moment where the animal path gets pulled out of the way by the human path, or the other way around. Well, we have a similar thing happening here. Like, Naruto actually creates a shadow clone specifically to pull himself out of the, like, to create some momentum to get himself out of the way of the oncoming projectiles. Now, it's interesting to think about how Sasuke, for example, or Itachi, as a maybe even better example, might have handled this, right? Like, you could totally see Sasuke making the decision to pull out kunai of his own and basically just like intercept them, or a character with a blade, or a character who uses chakra to reinforce their arms or whatever, might be able to just swat them away. In fact, like Naruto in Four Tails mode, even, or Three Tails mode, could probably just like flick them away with his tail. But there's also, I think, a clue in here about how Naruto perceives his own durability, right? Like, this is something that I want to come back to and do a deeper dive slash analysis on over the course of future streams. But Naruto does also make the conscious decision to use his to create a shadow clone, which, assuming that it works this way, I know there's some back and forth about this, would consume 50% of his chakra. So he's willing to use 50% of his chakra to avoid getting wounded by, or to avoid these three shuriken, which means that he considers these shuriken enough of a threat to his to himself, um, that it's worth making a shadow clone for, and then specifically pulling himself away from, right? So that suggests to me that Naruto in this form could be wounded by those shuriken, which makes perfect sense, right? But I think it's important to remember that even, decently high level characters, he's not a Jonin by any means, but still, like experienced, battle hardened characters are still wary of getting pierced by simple, common, conventional metal weaponry. And that, I think, tells us something. It gives us like a little nugget of information about the upper limits of these characters' durability, right? Um, and then this ability to transform into the shuriken is also kind of crazy as well. Just kind of taking a moment and to take it all in. It's a great fight. Yeah, this trope kind of comes back a few times. Let's see. Kakashi himself states that he needs to keep the Sharingan active to not lose. Good stamina feat also, and that he thinks he can keep it on until sunrise. Yeah, that's a good point too. I mean, that's obviously like a massive improvement over his stamina limitations from part one, right? In terms of the Sharingan, like how heavy of a toll it takes on his body. Um, yeah, and it keeps going for an extended period of time. So their stamina, like all of them, have excellent stamina. That's just time he's so fast you can't keep up. His arms, you got to disable them somehow, tie him up. Master Kakashi says, super strong as ever, smarter than Shikamaru, keener sense of smell than Kiba, more adept at Sharingan than Sasuke, and his taijutsu is greater than bushy brows. Yeah, so I think this is an interesting point, because it's something that I think would come up potentially in a debate, and I think that people, based on what I've heard, how I've heard people approach this sort of thing in debates, you will sometimes hear people look at something like this and come to take two completely different perspectives, right? One is that the author wants to tell us how strong Kakashi is. How is he going to do that? Well, he has Naruto essentially act as his mouthpiece. He has Naruto tell us how strong he thinks, the author thinks, Kakashi is. The other perspective is that Naruto is, a character who is diegetically, like, within the world, telling us his opinion. And as a result, we should take everything he's saying as coming from his own mind, like his own subjective understanding of the world. So when Naruto says this, are we as readers supposed to say, Master Kakashi is as super strong as ever, so he is, I don't see anything to contest that, but smarter than Shikamaru, right, as a good example. What should we come to the conclusion that Kishimoto wants us to think that objectively, or at least in a firm seated way, that Kakashi's smarter than Shikamaru? Or are we supposed to think that, like, Naruto thinks that to be the case? I know that's like an incredibly simple thing, obviously any character speaking within a given excuse me, work is speaking from their perspective, But at the same time, it's like it's something that people get stuck on in debates like quite frequently. Is when do we know if it's really if the character has like a perfect example that we've talked about before, and I'm sure you've heard if you've listened to any like Kakazu versus characters debates, is when Kakazu says like I'm virtually immune to physical damage. Physical attacks can't hurt me. Whatever he says specifically in various translations, it's like, okay, is Kishimoto telling us personally as individuals that he wants us to believe that no physical attacks are going to work on him, or is he telling us that Kakuzu, based on his own knowledge and assessment, thinks that he can't be hurt by any of the physical attacks that he's aware of? Now, personally, I gravitate towards the latter, but I understand why both approaches have their own merit. I also think it's kind of subtle, and you could debate like, oh well, maybe Sakura was just putting more of herself into this fight than Naruto. But I also think that like it makes sense that of these two characters here, Sakura, the one who is not as well known for having like the insane stamina and recovery that Naruto does, is the one who's panting. Like even though she has like great chakra control, and even though she probably has like the ability to keep her like, to modulate her energy expenditure with that chakra control, she's still huffing and puffing. Naruto is not. Obviously, maybe she was waiting there for long, like not waiting there for as long as Naruto. Blah blah. You could analyze it, but I think this is one of those things where, like, artistically, the author has an opportunity here to tell us something subtly about the characters, and to me, it's meaningful that of like he could have drawn this any way that he wanted to and set up any preceding circumstances that would lead to these characters either being more or less tired compared to one another, and he made this choice, and it just so happens to correlate with Naruto having more stamina. It fits, right? It's like part of the larger tapestry that is part of the design of these characters and their relative strength, and it's something that Kishimoto just like peppers things in there constantly in kind of a subtle way over the course of the series. Oh, yeah, you're right. He does. Can't believe I had to use a Sharingan this much. His biggest disadvantage is how quickly it drains my stamina, but I should be able to hold them off till sunrise. Yeah, there you go. He's still got it active in all likelihood. Um, yeah, I think that it's this is obviously maybe not to be taken super seriously because it's a little bit of a gag. But again, it is kind of interesting that Naruto starts with a frontal assault and then manages to come up with a strategy that is so perfect because it relies specifically on information that is specific and unique to Kakashi. Like, this obviously isn't going to work on somebody who doesn't care about make out tactics. And the strategy that he picks specifically disables Kakashi's hearing, quote unquote, disables it, his vision, and puts him on the defensive, right? Like, it's not just Naruto, like, scanning for any possible advantage and like picking whatever he happens to find. This particular strategy that he's employing here covers all of his bases, right? Like, he knows that because of the Sharingan, Kakashi can still read his lips, and so he knows that Kakashi's only going to have a couple different options. Now, granted, you could argue that this is plot-induced stupidity because, if this was a bloodlusted, intense fight or whatever, then Kakashi might decide to just, like, fuck off and, use a substitution or use a, like, counter with a Chidori or something like who the fuck knows, right? If it was, fucking, I don't know, Madara doing this to him, he probably wouldn't respond the same way, But at the same time, it's like Naruto's strategy itself had layers of intricacy to it that I think is evidence of his intelligence, even though it's a gag, right? How about No says, funniest thing find regarding this is that Boruto tosses a kunai with a paper bomb at Inojin, and he just tanks it arms down. Oh, interesting. So that's I think establishes like maybe a higher level of base durability or like common durability for Boruto characters. Then you could probably use that as an exploration of that. Yeah. Boruto and Sarada also can't pierce white Zetsu. I didn't even know that white Zetsu was in Boruto. It shows you how much I know. I've only read the manga and seen, like, I think I watched episodes 1 through 15 because I was interested in the Nue stuff. I've seen the versus Momoshiki arc, and then I've seen a couple of, like I saw a compilation, like a 60-minute edit down of the how's that guy's name, Urashiki, going back into the past with the time traveling robot turtle, which is a sentence that I never thought I would say out loud, but that's what happens. Urashiki, the cosmic bisexual fisherman, finds a time traveling robot turtle and goes into the past to steal a magical fox from a 12-year-old. So, lest we take this, the debates and stuff, lest we take it too seriously, just remember that this is what we're talking about. It's still worth, taking seriously. It's still worth taking with respect. But at the same time, like, it's goofy. There's room for us to have fun with the goofy stuff. 1 second, sorry. God damn. How about no also says Fuse Momoshiki takes no damage from Sasuke's Kusanagi sword swing to the neck. That's true. Yeah, I remember that. I think what he says is like it's too late too, right? Like implying that he might have actually been wounded by it before, but since now he is fused, that fusion is granting him like a greater durability, and now it is too late. Now there's nothing Sasuke can do about it, right? That's how I interpreted that for what it's worth. Fuse Momoshiki, yeah, okay, cool. That's a good point. It was good to read over that fight for sure. So, as you can probably tell, my throat is pretty sore. I'm pretty hoarse. So I think what I'm going to do is let's just take a look at two things. Let's take a look at Naruto's supposed, like, intelligence anti-feat that comes when he's fighting Obito, like Jubito. And then let's go back and look at the Kiba fight real quick and compare those two things, right? Because something that came up in the Swag Kage versus Noodles debate was Noodles arguing that, like, Naruto is a dumbass, like, categorically in general, that he's just not smart at all ever, because of what happens here. But then, of course, like, they didn't really talk about the fight with Kiba. They didn't really talk about the fight with Neji, any of the other fight, the fight with Zabuza, right? So just to kind of compare and contrast those things. Oh yeah, no worries. Do you have a new video, Saria, or were you responding to another one? I won't believe if I missed one of your videos. I'm sorry. Yeah, you never have to apologize for going away for a while. Let's see. Should have given me a. Oh yeah, you have a timeline video. What the fuck? How have I not seen that? I'm sorry. I'm adding that to my watch later right now. 11 days ago. Didn't you have more videos? It says you only have 5 videos. Did you take some of the other ones down? Yeah, what the hell? Did you, like, unlist some of your videos? Sorry, I feel like I'm... Oh, you merged them, the two of them together. Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. I was like, wait, what happened? Okay. But you had other videos on here too, right? Like, yeah, you had the one about, like, Link and Dark Souls and stuff like that. My dog is upset that my partner's actually shoveling snow. Yeah, so let's take a look at 642, right? So remember at this point that, are you going to redo them? Okay, cool, gotcha. Sad to see them go, but I understand wanting to, like, refine them. So at this point this isn't during the war, this is relatively soon after Jubito stabilizes, right? So it's chapter 642. Obito has just absorbed the Ten Tails and become its Jinchuriki, and I think he's gone through the process of, like, stabilizing and regaining his consciousness at this point. I think so. Well, we're gonna double check in a second here. But they've launched a variety of different attacks at him, and none of them have been effective at this point, right? I think, forget exactly, but I think they might have, yeah, okay, so he's stabilized, he has his consciousness back. They try to do this big-ass, like, Amaterasu thing over here, and that doesn't work. So, yeah, he's, like, totally unfazed by it. And so, they're basically, like, kind of running out of options. And here, Naruto tries to push himself to go into a higher Biju transformation. in order to just like continue assaulting him with more and more raw strength. And obviously that doesn't work out. Like he runs out of power, right? So Tobirama kind of scolds him. Are you trying to make our situation even worse? You're as goofy as your father, so much so that even he's dumbfounded, right? And so like, yeah, he unfortunately isn't able to muster that power. It doesn't work out for him, and he looks like kind of a doofus. And then watch what happens here, in case you probably are already familiar with this, right? But Gamakichi uses Syrup Gun, and Syrup Gun clashes with what's his name, with Obito, and despite Naruto being kind of surprised by this, right? Like he wasn't expecting Yamakichi to do this. He starts to have a conversation with him, says goodbye to him. So his mental focus is elsewhere. He turns back and he notices this. Like he immediately notices that something is wrong, right? And it's actually pretty subtle, right? It's like what he notices is not that like it's not that Obito took damage, right? It's just that the attack itself, the syrup gun itself, didn't immediately disintegrate like Minato's arm did or whatever. So he notices this thing happening. It's relatively subtle. He extrapolates from that it is likely that there is more to be learned from this, which we'll come back to in just a second. And then he immediately formulates a strategy. He pulls off this feat where he manages to stand totally still in the middle of the battle. And while Obito is, talking with Minato, gathers his Senjutsu energy and powers up a Senjutsu enhanced Rasengan. Oh, obviously, he has quite a few, maybe like a minute to do that while this conversation is happening. And when he realizes this, right? He probably, when he prepares the jutsu, he probably recognizes that he's not going to be able to get to Obito before Obito is capable of like responding to him. However, he is smart enough to predict that one of the other shinobi there who has, maybe he's not thinking specifically Tobirama, but one of the other shinobi there who has the ability to teleport will be able to help him out and get him there. So just like he had this silent communication with Sasuke way back when they fought Zabuza and he did the transformation thing with the fucking shuriken and all that, he intuitively warps up the strategy with Tobirama and just like wordlessly, silently coordinates this with him and tests out this hypothesis, right? That they're both trying for the first time. Now, I want to point out something here, that Minato doesn't realize that this is, like, doesn't understand what's happening at all. He's too busy talking to Obito. Sasuke might recognize what's going on here, but he seems a little surprised by it, right? He's not immediately like, literally, he's like, he doesn't even know. Even as he's seeing, like, he should be able to sense or like to realize that Naruto's going into Sage mode, right? He saw everything that Naruto did. He watched him prepare his jutsu. He knows that Naruto can enhance his jutsu with Sage energy in all likelihood, but he is surprised by it. So here, Naruto's perception and analytical ability exceeded Sasuke's. So if you think that Sasuke is smart, Naruto also has to be smart, at least in terms of his like tactical reasoning and perception and stuff like that, right? So that being said, where does the confusion come from? Well, moments later, after achieving this feat, Naruto, like, so maybe Sasuke doesn't actually fully understand it. Maybe I was wrong in saying that he knows what Senjutsu is, and like that. Maybe he didn't actually know that Gamakichi's abilities were Senjutsu based, right? So maybe this isn't actually an anti-feat for Sasuke. In terms of his intelligence, maybe he just lacked the knowledge and information that would give him the context to be able to come to the same conclusion that Naruto did. I still think that it's a feat for Naruto regardless. But that being said, when Naruto comes back, I think that this is very telling, right? So Naruto says, Toad attacks are Senjutsu, they use nature energy. Come to think of it, when I tried to gauge Ten-Tails' power, it was nature energy itself. So maybe you can counter nature energy with nature energy. Not that I really understand it, right? So he doesn't fully understand the technical aspects of what he's talking about. Like, he's not necessarily going to be able to explain the physics or the science behind why this is happening or give a lecture about it, but he was still able to intuit the mechanics of it and to exploit those mechanics to his advantage tactically in battle. And this is why I say that there's like multiple intelligences on display, right? Because on the one hand, like, yeah, he is kind of goofy. He's not book smart to the point where he really actually understands the principles of what's happening, but he did notice it. He took in a new piece of information and he combined it with something else that he had learned recently, again in the heat of battle, combines it, innovates on it, and generates a strategy based upon it. So that is fast-paced, real-time, complex problem solving under pressure. That is objectively fucking smart, right? So where does the confusion come from, right? Like, even Tobirama acknowledges that he instantly grasped how to use the flying Raijin with me. He's mastered sage power, right? So he is respecting his abilities. I would argue respecting his intelligence as well. So where does the comment about him being stupid come from? Right? Let's go forward just a little bit. Okay, so they're coming up with a strategy. Okay, now let's point one thing out here, right? They are trapped inside this barrier and they don't know of any way to get out, right? Apparently, none of the people who are in the barrier currently have the physical strength to just punch their way out and get out of the way. As a matter of fact, I think Obito believes that and this is true, that the barrier itself will be not destroyed by multiple Biju bombs. It was 1, 2, 3, at least 4 Biju bombs from the fucking Ten Tails. So if it can survive 4 simultaneous Ten Tails flower mode Biju bombs, there's probably nothing that anybody else can do to get through it. Naruto's aware of this. He's also aware of like this new chakra linking, which is with Kurama, which is something that he just came up with. Like, he just got access to KCM2 maybe hours ago, right? He's just started to work with his father and Tobirama and just incorporated new knowledge about the flying Raijin, which is not really a jutsu that he's seen in action before. And he combines those two things, right? His new ability to share chakra with this teleportation ability, comes up with it immediately and gets everybody outside the barrier, right? So that is another instance of Naruto innovating in the heat of the moment, combining these two principles and actually doing something that's pretty risky, pretty innovative, and pretty critical, that pretty much saves everybody's lives. So that shouldn't be undervalued as well. Now, this is the point that, like, of course, Noodles took things out of context and tried to use this to be like, because this happens, it somehow invalidates everything else that came before it, right? So Naruto says he feels power welling up inside of him. Let's go. He leaps forward, and then Tobirama points out that nothing other than Senjutsu works against him. He does say, "I know you're not an idiot here," and then he says, "Okay, you're an even bigger fool than my elder brother." Right? So this is not particularly you've already surpassed all previous Hokage's stupidity. So again, like, a very boring, a very kind of incurious, apathetic take of this would be that, well, technically speaking, since at this point in the story, these characters are calling Naruto stupid, then that means he is objectively stupid because it's verbatim stated, Kishimoto wrote it out on the page, blah, blah, blah. But if you put these things together, what it really just gives us is a picture of Naruto's dynamic intelligence, or like different sorts of intelligence that he has. Right here, he's being stupid in the sense that he is not actually thinking straight. He's letting his emotions get the better of him. He's getting carried away with this dramatic moment. He's charging forward. He's surging. He's got like this ego boost, so to speak, mental amp, if you want to call it that, right? And in that moment, he happens to forget about this critical piece of information. But remember, that critical piece of information was something that he himself figured out and used effectively in combat, and then he's going to continue using it in innovative ways going forward, like merging Sage Mode with the what the hell is it called? The Susanoo, I think he hasn't done yet. Like, right, he immediately recognizes his mistake and uses his newfound knowledge to pull this shit off, right? He continues to use the techniques that he innovated and developed effectively and in novel ways going forward throughout the rest of the fight. So the argument was that because Naruto makes a mistake when he is like emotionally wrapped up in the moment, that means he is just categorically stupid and can be expected to be stupid in general, but or like as a default at a baseline. But really what's happening is that Naruto makes a mistake, and because he's like distracted essentially, and then immediately learns from it, internalizes that knowledge, adapts to it, and then improves. And that is a sign of intelligence as well. So, if anything, he used this supposed anti-feat of his intelligence to set himself up for yet another in a long chain of actual positive intelligence feats. So, I think my thesis statement, like my final like take-home message out of all of this, is that characters can have feats and anti-feats. They can have things that count for and against a particular attribute, aspect of their character, manifestation of their strength, etc., etc., etc. Right? There are lots of different ways to view and to portray a character, and I would encourage anybody reading the story to not, especially if you're debating people, try not to just look for individual like nuggets of information and be like, oh, okay, I found this says this, so this suits my purposes, so I'm done, right? Look at multiple apparently contradicting pieces of information and see if you can find a way to reconcile them. If there's a statement about a character being strong here and then weak there, well, what does that mean? Which of those things is true? Or could they both be true? If they're both true, how do we figure that out? Because they seem to be mutually contradictory. Same thing over here. Naruto is stupid, but Naruto is also smart. Naruto is explicitly called stupid by multiple characters right after being called smart by an intelligent character. So which is it? Well, it's contextual. It depends on the context. It depends on what exactly we mean by intelligence, what we mean by being smart, and specifically how that intelligence is made manifest over the course of a particular sequence of events. I think it is easy to demonstrate that Naruto is smart. I don't think I'm going to go through it now because my voice is really starting to hurt, honestly. But read through the Kiba fight in chapter 75. I think I'll just point out one thing in particular that Naruto does, which is very impressive, right? He manages to trick Kiba into attacking his own dog by, and then like manages to get the bite on him by doing like this double transformation, right? That actually wasn't the moment where he got Kiba to strike Akamaru. That comes later. But he does like this multi-stage plan here in the beginning of the fight. Then Akamaru and Kiba are able to press him in terms of their like speed and combat strength. Like they appear to be faster. They appear to be stronger than him overall. They are certainly hurting him. So Naruto is not going to beat this opponent by just like throwing himself at him over and over again. He's getting his ass kicked. But what does he actually do? He uses this like double transformation thing that is complex enough that Sakura has to give us like a whole like diagram explanation. And not only that, that once he pulls this off, he also manages to maintain his cool long enough to be able to like survive the pain without having it break his concentration, and then transforms into Akamaru, right? So he's thinking, he doesn't just like transform and get lucky or whatever. He anticipates that he's going to potentially wind up getting found out by Kiba, and he like plans one step ahead, right? He puts a plan within the plan just in case it fails, and then like his individual kick is probably not anywhere near as strong as any of the like fang over fang stuff that Kiba did, but it comes when his guard is down, it comes as a surprise, and it comes right to the head. And so like again, it's complex enough that Kishimoto felt the need to give us another fucking diagram to explain it. It's like, this is really all you have to do, right? Like you can just look at what he does in this battle and it'll be enough to demonstrate that Naruto's intelligent. Yes, this happens. Yes, this is a perfect example of unpredictability. And yes, Naruto might have actually lost the fight without this because it does put Kiba at a very strong disadvantage. But what this moment does really is it just gives Naruto like a one mulligan, right? It gets him out of one attack, and then after that, like he um he still has to like do the Uzumaki Naruto barrage and all that to actually damage Kiba. I guess you could argue that he's like still stunned and unable to move here, so maybe it does like wind up being the thing that cinches the fight. I think Kiba himself even says about one of Naruto's fights later on, like when he's fighting Gaara or something. You're not going to be able to win this with a fart or something like that. So it's possible. You can interpret this as being like, that's what won him the fight. But he had to get this far anyway, you know, based on his intelligence. So sure, he has luck. He has unpredictable things that happen to his advantage, but he still has to be able to capitalize on that advantage, and he has to be able to maneuver and navigate through the fight using his intellect, using his tactics to get to this point in the first place. Right? So I'm gonna catch up on chat really quick, and then I think I'm gonna head out. I'm sorry for it being a bit of a shorter stream tonight, but I have to kind of look out for my my raspy voice. But yeah, let me see what you guys have been saying. Sorry, I said, yeah, I wasn't very proud of my analysis, especially of the Dark Souls one. Actually, I was wondering if you'd like to help me out with it when I actually get around to recording it. Even if you don't sit and record and call with me while we discuss it, even if we just text back and forth a few times about things, because I really want to go into depth about Link encountering Artorias, because I feel like this would be a situation where Link would be very respectful of him. Yeah, absolutely. Kind of like Suga in Age of Calamity or King Bulbin in Twilight Princess, where he defeats them, but he doesn't actively try to kill them because he knows they have good in them. Yeah, I fucking love that. That is a great idea. I'd be more than happy to help. I did actually think that your analysis before was quite good, but if you think it can be even better, then I trust in your ability and your knowledge and your desire to improve on that. So yeah, let me know if I can help in any way. I am not the Dark Souls lore aficionado that I used to be, but I definitely am still very passionate about the series and know quite a bit about the lore, so if I can help, I am happy to. And How About No says, another example of that type of intelligence with Naruto is in chapter 675, where he can't explain what he did with Kakashi's eyeball since he lacks the vocabulary, but he can reprogram the cells intuitively. Yeah, that's a very good example. Let's take a look at that, 675. Very good point. He's like, it just felt right or something like that, right? He just kind of feels it out. Let's take a look. And this, by the way, is also he's just gotten this ability right from Hagoromo, and he is still kind of figuring it out. Right? It's not something that anybody else, maybe in history, except for, I guess, maybe other Rinnegan users, but even then, that's doubtful. Has ever even encountered before, right? So he has no blueprint, no mental framework for how this is supposed to work. He doesn't have a fucking tutorial, but he just kind of like intuitively figures out how to use the power. He can't explain it. He doesn't understand the principles behind it necessarily from an academic standpoint, but he's still able to use it intelligently and effectively, even though this is basically like his first time fucking with it. And it's like a brand new ability that probably nobody other than Hagoromo has really used before. It's kind of amazing when you think about it. Kind of crazy to think about, says How About No, since restoring cell pluripotency is pretty advanced biology even right now. Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about all the precision and control and mastery that it takes a medical ninja to learn how to practice how to execute their maneuvers and their jutsu, assuming that some of those same things would apply here, then yeah, it's like maybe it's simpler. Maybe he's just sort of like triggering a rush of life force in or something that stimulates the cells to regenerate as opposed to like rebuilding them or anything. I wonder if like in the fourth data book there's a jutsu name for this or more of an explanation. But either way, it's still an incredibly impressive thing. And then like this is an innovative thing for Naruto to be doing as well. So I think that means a lot. So thank you everybody who stopped by. Thank you for the discussion. Thank you for your time. I really do love hanging out with y'all and having these discussions. I am going to be back on Thursday with more Clear Obscure at around 7 p.m., assuming that we don't lose power like the rest of the country or half the country. But yeah, here's hoping that all goes well. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. I will catch up on the Discord either later tonight or tomorrow morning. And in the meantime, be well, take care, be safe, have fun. Bye bye.